Welcome back to the channel. This is another episode on Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is an excellent book by Dr. Clarissa. This book is perfect for people who've experienced some kind of trauma, had a horrible upbringing, or having trouble in relationships but want to get stronger, want to set boundaries. This book is for you. So this is chapter 12, and chapter 12 is marking territory, the boundaries of rage and forgiveness. What is so intense about this particular chapter? So my life these last couple of months have been crazy challenging, and so this chapter is so perfect for what I'm going through right now, and it showed me so much. It showed me so much. So it was right on time. So like if you have a person who is in your life, you can't see yourself cutting that person out of your life, but how do you deal with their misbehavior? You know they're not going to change. They are who the heck they are. You also know that you're not going to completely cut them out of your life. This chapter will help you persevere in that relationship. This chapter will help you persevere in that relationship and help you find victory for yourself. I wish I could share more, but while I'm having trouble with somebody who's in my life, I can't kick them out of my life, unfortunately. But so I had to find a way to persevere in the relationship and do the things that I feel spiritually, biblically obligated to do. So let's get into the chapter. I'll share some parts that really hit home. So the first story, she starts talking about the crescent bear, and the reason she's talking about the crescent bear, so I guess the bear has a portion of his neck where the white hair looks like the shape of the crescent moon. And like I shared in previous videos, I feel like you're not going to fully gain your strength until you face the closest people in your lives who present like bears. You know, and we associate bears with being terrifying, intimidating. So not until you face your bear are you going to find the most strength. It reminds me of a wonderful quote I hold close to my heart. I don't know who wrote it, but it said, "What you run away from pursues you, while what you face strengthens you." Love that quote. Wish I know who wrote it. I do feel like I may have butchered it a little bit, but I also think you may have gotten a gist. We choose relationships that nurture our creative and instinctive side. So you've heard people say before, like-minded people. Well, for me, this goes beyond like-minded people. Search out friends who actually are in tune with their wild side. So they're in tune with their instincts. They're aware of their feelings. They trust their instincts, and they're doing things to further develop it. Like, how do we develop our instincts? By meditation, by prayer, by dance, by creating art, so some people get it just by walking. Some people get it by or connect to it with exercise. For me, it is by being creative. I do have to meditate and pray every morning. I also journal, because for me, I feel like you pray to God in meditation and prayer, but he's able to talk to you through your journaling. So as you write down everything that's coming through your spirit, through your mind, that's him or the spirit guides working through the pen to communicate to you. So that's how I receive it and process it. And so then we want to look out, just like earlier chapters talked about finding our pack. We want to find those individuals who are doing the work that it takes to grow their instincts, to be more instinctual, take care of their wildish side, and even be honest about it. Ooh, something else that jabbed at me. I'm trying to see where it started. Bringing the healer, climbing the mountain. So I did kind of jump ahead a little bit. So there's a wife in the story of the crescent bear. Her husband, they had got married. She loved him. He was kind. He was gentle. He was everything that she wanted. He was called away to duty and was gone for years. He was gone for years. When he returned home from war, he refused to come back in the house and be with her. He refused to come back in the house and be who she used to know him as. So he was no longer this kind, generous, amazing man. And she would go out because when she knew he was coming home, she made all his favorites. She wanted to spoil her man to remind him of how great a woman she was and how good he had it. Well, instead of being appreciative of that, he was nasty, he was horrible, he treated her really bad, and he just stayed in the wilderness. And so this broke her heart. She went to go seek a healer. Hey, healer, I want the husband I used to have. And the healer said, okay, well, I need one thing for the potion, that's gonna bring your husband back to what you was. I need a hair from the crescent moon of the bear. And so she had to climb up this mountain to where the bear lived, and it was beautiful because she would say something arigato, something to thank the mountain for allowing her to walk along its body. Arigato to the trees, thanking the trees for allowing her to walk underneath them. And then, of course, thanking the bear. She asked the bear for permission to take a hair. So it was a really ceremonial production. She got the hair, went back to the healer. The healer threw it in the fire. The healer said, the same thing you did to get that hair from the bear, you need to approach and use that in order to get your husband to be back who he was. So meaning, initially she started off just being kind. Let me set some food in front of him. Let me sing to him. Let me, different things that she had to employ to the bear. And the story is beautiful. You must read it. So the different things that she employed to the bear that broke down the bear's annoyance and wrath towards her, she did to her husband. And the story implies that he eventually, his cold heart melted and she got back the man that she had known. So that being said, there's a portion, it says, bringing in the healer, climbing the mountain. So rather than trying to behave and not feel our rage, or rather than using it to burn down every living thing in 100-mile radius, it is better to first ask rage to take a seat with us, have some tea, talk a while so we can find out what summoned this visitor. At first, rage acts like the angry husband in the story. It doesn't want to talk. It doesn't want to eat. It wants to just sit there, rail, or be left alone. It is at this critical point that we call the healer our wisest self, our best resources for seeing beyond ego irritation and aggravation. The healer is always the far-seer. She is the one who can tell us what good can come from exploring this emotive surge. So for me, I just had grown up being the person to behave. I always suppressed my emotions, and the easiest way for me to suppress my emotions were through eating. I had go-to snacks, mine being nacho cheese Doritos and a Snicker or some M&Ms with peanuts. So because I spent so long trying to behave, it didn't change the fact that the rage was there. I just always suppressed it with some kind of food, something, so that I wouldn't explode on the person who was making me incensed. I made the decision recently to not suppress. And so the person who presented as a bear for me, when they began to say horrible things about my character, I was like, that is not my character. I don't appreciate you saying awful things about me. I let them have it with a full volume, whereas normally I stay all extra kind while I'm bubbling up inside because you're attacking me. No, I told my truth in the volume that my spirit felt because I was being attacked, and this had gone on for years, and I was refusing to let this bear continue to squash my spirit. When I tell you I felt so strong after the event, I was like, you advocated for yourself, you stood up for yourself, there's some, and we weren't playing tit for tat. that. So the person, when I raised my voice to let them know their behavior was unacceptable and I would no longer tolerate it, they calmed themselves down. Within minutes, we got off the phone because no, we're not playing this game anymore. So I'm saying I was so proud of myself for finally standing up for myself and not going into a situation that would lead me to suppress or subdue my emotions with food or snacks. Hopefully you got what I was trying to say. Now, if your bear is a physically violent bear, obviously I'm not saying confront them, but I don't think it's wise to stay in the environment. So like for me, I was 15 when this person, I was holding my child. No, I was 16. I was holding my child. The phone had rang. The phone was for the person, but I'm being nice. The person asked me how I was doing. How's my day going? I'm answering the questions. I did not get off the phone fast enough, so the person got so angry, pushed me, who was holding my child, to the floor. I knew I was done. The next day, I called a shelter. Hi, do you have space for me and my child? They said yes. I packed up, paid the bills, because all the utilities were in my name. Paid the bills, went to a shelter. Actually, I went to my sister's house because the shelter gave me a specific day to come. Stayed there. I had missed that I left my little sister in that environment. My little sister was probably 9 or 12. I can't really remember. Anyway, left my sister in that environment, and I missed her one day after a couple of months and went to visit her. And the person said, hey, can you do her hair? I did her hair. The person was like, oh, we'll drop you off. My naive butt didn't realize that was just a ploy to see where we were living. I was so naive. God, I was so naive. Anyway, the person was like, nope, I'm not dropping you here. You are 16. I can sue this place and shut them down. I had already started to really care for these people because they took me in. They were treating my daughter wonderful. They were so nice. I believed the person who said they could sue them, and so I never went back to the shelter. Foolishly. Anyway, I endured the drama for about 2.5 more years, and then left again to another shelter, and then finally gained my independence. So I said that long, short story to say, do not stay in a toxic environment, especially if you have children. Find a shelter. There are some great ones out there, but come up with a plan in that shelter. It is very disturbing how many people say they stay for the children. As a child, when you see other people you care about being abused, be it through yelling, horrible words, or physical violence, that's a lot. That's a lot. Don't let your child be destroyed by seeing you be abused. Please. Whew. So, bringing in the healer, climbing the mountain, and I am 3 paragraphs down. The outrage or irritation we naturally feel about various aspects of life and culture is exasperated when there were repeated incidents of disrespect, harrowing, neglect, or high ambiguity in childhood. A person thusly injured is sensitive to further injury and utilizes all defenses to avoid them. Gross losses of power, meaning losses of certainty that we are worthy of care, respect, concern, cause extreme sorrow and angry childhood vows to, once grown, never allow oneself to be harmed like that ever again. And so that's what happened to me. And I ended up taking in a child just to help the person with some health challenges they had. And it was in taking in this child who lacked the joy that I feel like a child should have, that I started to remember my childhood. I started to remember events that began my sense of sorrow, loneliness, fear, terror. I remembered the nightmares I used to always have as a kid. I'm like, why were my nightmares always the same? Something was chasing me, and it was always into this crazy forest or woods woods or something. So having this child around me brought up so much childhood pain that I had just suppressed or whatever, and this chapter just or the time being with the child brought up all that. And then I was so happy, actually, a subscriber, Eva, I hope you're a subscriber, but Eva messaged me on YouTube and said, are you going to continue doing videos for the series? And so this was a chapter that I had a paper clip around, which is my way of letting myself know what I haven't done a video on that I actually want to do a video on. So anyway, it just burst open all these emotions, and anyway. So the point is, the outrage or irritation we naturally feel about various aspects of life and culture is exasperated when there are repeated incidents of disrespect. So because this person had began to remind me of how awful my childhood was, I could no longer tolerate it. So I was willing to push back at a level I hadn't pushed back before, because I couldn't do it anymore. Last sentence, or last two. It is the thing that unearly informs us about what to do next. Where can we find this process that will free us? On the mountain. So, okay, let me read the whole paragraph. It is good to take to the mountain when we don't know what else to do. So people who love to hike, that made sense. Reading this chapter made me want to start to hike. I'm not a fan of hiking because being out in the blazing sun, walking on rocks doesn't make sense to me. But I can see the spiritual aspect. I was more focused on the physical aspect. That didn't make sense. I'm like, why not just learn how to swim? But now that I can see the spiritual that would come through that, I'm excited about it. So it is good to take to the mountain when we don't know what else to do. So if you feeling frustrated, angry, irritated, consider when we are drawn to quests we know little about. This makes life and develops soul. In climbing the foreign mountain, we gain true knowledge of the instinctive psyche and the creative acts of which it is capable. That is our goal. Learning occurs differently for different people, but the instinctual viewpoint that emanates from the wild unconscious, and that is cyclical, begins to be the only one that makes sense of and gives meaning to life, our life. It is this thing that unearly informs us about what to do next. Where can we find this process that will free us? On the mountain. So she's saying by climbing that mountain, showing it respect, persevering, making it to the top, acknowledging what we've done, working through whatever we're going through, we are going to know ourselves at a deeper level. We are going to understand ourselves better than we knew, better than when we first began the first step to get to the top of the mountain. On the mountain, we find additional clues about how to transform the hurt. Negativism. Oh, I can't articulate some words. And grudge holding attributes of rage, all of which are usually warranted initially. One is the phase of arigato. Arigato zasho, I think is what it is. Zashu, which the woman sings to thank the trees and the mountains for allowing her to pass. Literally translated, the phrase means thank you, illusion. In Japanese, jashu means a clear way of looking at things that interfere with deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. An illusion occurs when something creates an image that is not real, such as a heat wave on a road that makes the road seem wavy. That there are heat waves is accurate, but the road is not really wavy. That is the illusion. The first piece of information is accurate, but the second piece, the conclusion, is not. In the story, the mountain allows the woman passage, and the trees lift their limbs to let her pass. This symbolizing a lifting of illusions that allows the woman to proceed on her quest. In Buddhism, there are said to be 7 veils of illusion. As each is discarded, a person is said to understand another aspect of the true nature of life and the self. To lift the veils makes one strong enough to tolerate what life is about and to see into the patterns of events, people, and things, and eventually to learn not to take the first impression so deadly seriously, but to look behind and beyond. A grown-up moment. I can't help but think of my childhood or my teenage years, even early 20s. I took what people said to me as truth. I just did. And then I began to learn what they say coupled with what they do is a portion of the truth. And then given time, there is the truth. So, and like many women and men, you know, I was big on fairy tales. Meet a guy. Oh my God, is this my knight in shining armor? Oh my God, is this finally my prince? Just looking for fairy tales and illusions all over the place. Even by my house. And I still believe it's the most perfect house for me. But when I tell you, you know, they said on paper, no problems, and it has more than enough problems. Illusions. All right, so the second paragraph was, or not the second, this is more the paragraph after the one I just read. In Buddhism, the lifting of the veils is necessary for enlightenment. The woman in this tale is on a journey to bring light into the darkness of rage. To do this, she must understand the many layers of reality there are on the mountain. We have so many illusions about life. She is beautiful, therefore she is desirable, can be an illusion. I am good, therefore I will be accepted, may also be an illusion. When we look for truth, we are looking to dispel our illusions. When we are able to see through these illusions, which in Buddhism would be called barriers to enlightenment, we are able to discover the hidden side of rage. Just in this year, I really got really hard on myself, or not hard on myself, just talking to myself. Tell the truth. Don't make up stories about people. So like, meaning I had this one guy I was in love with. I was like, oh my God, he's so kind. He's so family oriented. So I had created this character list of this man. Didn't ask him if this who he was. Didn't spend time dissecting behaviors. I just automatically, this is him. It's same with my female friends. Oh, she's this, and that. So I just would meet a person, and based on first meetings, I would summarize the character I believe they had. So I was delusional about who they were. I didn't give it people I had automatically felt magnetized to. I didn't follow my rules and give it time to really see if who they were. So because I had quickly magnetized myself to them, it's almost like I put them up on a pedestal and refuse to look at the things about their character that could possibly be red flags. So we have to stop living with delusions. We have to stop putting people on pedestals, because it's those illusions that just build or add to rage. So that is something that I'm working on. Well, I mean, you don't know until you get challenged, you know. These illusions are challenged by questing, by asking, by studying, peering under the trees, and by climbing on the body of the mountain. As in the story, it is a worthy task to perpetuate the wise bear, the instinctive psyche, and to keep offering its spiritual food, whether that be church, prayer, archetypal psychology, dream life, art, rock climbing, canoeing, travel, or whatever. So we just have to do more things, and it's by doing these other things that we begin to excavate ourselves. We begin to know ourselves on a deeper level, because we're doing things that nurture or feed our wildish side. And our wildish side is more about nature. So if you're a person who obsesses about a lot of television, then you're not feeding your wildish side. So that's what I'm getting from it. So as you begin to do things that are more about nature, you will begin to feed your wildish side. To get close to the mystery of the bear, you give it food. It is quite a journey. This fixing of rage, stripping down illusions, taking it as a teacher, asking the help of the instinctual psyche, laying the dead past to rest. That was deep. Next part, the spirit bear. Dr. Pinkola is saying that, or notes in the book, that the bear symbolizes resurrection. I thought that was interesting because when you resurrect something, it means it died. And I guess it means it died. So obviously it once lived, and I guess the beating down of life or neglect or abuse by a person kind of forced or beat that person down into submission to the point they've lost themselves. They don't know who they are. So their original self, they're kind of blind to, and they're living in their delusional self. And so their original self, the wildish side, needs to be resurrected. While the woman was on the mountain learning, everything was magic, okay? Because it was something new that she was doing. Now that she is off the mountain, the so-called magical hair has been burned in the fire that destroys illusion. And now it is time for after Zen. Life is supposed to become mundane again. Yet she has the bounty of her experience on the mountain. She has the knowing. The energy that was bound up in rage can be used for other things. Now, a woman who has come to terms with rage returns to mundane life with new knowing, a new sense that she can more artfully live her life. Yet one day in the future, a something, a look, a word, a tone or voice, a feeling of being patronized, unappreciated, or manipulated against one's will, one of these will crop up again. Then her residue of pain will catch fire. Rage left over from old injuries can be compared to the trauma of a sharpened wound. One can pick out almost all the pieces of shattered metal from the missile, but the tiniest shards remain. One would think that if most are out, that would be that. Not so. On occasion, those tiniest shards twist and turn within and cause a ache that feels like the original wound, rage rising up all over again. But it's not the original and vast rage that causes this welling up. It is the very small particles of it, the irritants still left in the psyche that can never be fully excised. These cause a pain that is almost as intense as that of the original injury. Then a person tightens up, fearing the full blow of the pain, in effect causing more pain. They are involved in drastic maneuvers on three fronts. One is trying to contain the outside event. One is attempting to contain the pain broadcasting from the old injury inside, and one trying to secure safety of position by running head down in psychological crouch. It is too big to ask a single individual to take on the equivalent of a gang of three and try to knock out all of them at one time. That is why it is imperative to stop in the midst of it all, withdraw, and take solitude. It is too much to try and fight and handle feeling gunshot at the same time. A woman who has climbed the mountain withdraws, deals with the older event first, then the more recent event, decides her position, shakes out her ruff, puts up her ears, and goes back out to act with dignity. None of us can entirely escape our history. We can certainly put it in the background, but it is there nevertheless. However, if you will do these things for yourself, you will bring the rage, and eventually everything will calm down and be fine. Not perfect, but fine. You will be able to move ahead. The time of the shrapnel rage will be over. You'll handle it better and better each time, because you'll know when it is time to call in the healer again, to climb the mountain. Release yourself from the illusions that the present is an act and calculated replay of the past. A woman remembers that she can be both fierce and generous at the same time. Rage is not like a kidney stone. If you wait long enough, it will pass. No. You must take right action, then it will pass, and more creation will come to your life. The biggest thing that I got from that portion. We have to take the pains, the traumas, and we have to do the work to process them. Don't diminish our pain. Don't even soften the blow on ourselves. We have to tell the truth. One thing that also came up in this chapter, people will use that phrase of they did the best, or she did the best she could with what she had. I'd always hated that phrase. Always hated that phrase, because for me, you were letting this person off the hook for being neglectful. Now, doing the best you could with what you have. If say you're on welfare and you only have so much money to buy groceries, that's fine. But if you're a whole person who has to take care of people, but there are many nights you out partying, neglecting the kids. You never even bother to hug them. You never even bother. Or when you hug them, I don't know why you hug them, or they don't know why you hug them. It's a performance for other people. I just struggle with that phrase. No child should ever wonder, did my parent care? Or say, oh, of course they did. Well, when did they tell you? How are you too busy to stop and tell your child you love them and what you love about them? Oh, I'm busy trying to keep us alive and pay the bills. Oh, you got time to go drink at the bar with your friends, but you can't take the time to develop a closeness with this person you gave life to. But they did the best with what they had. No, I call BS. All right, we are almost there. So it says, as in the crescent moon bear, enlightenment does not occur during the deed itself. It occurs once illusion is destroyed. So we have to deal with illusion. We have to look at how we've characterized people. Do they really fit what we've said about them? Should that person really be on this throne that you've placed them on? Should that person really even be in your life? Are they so toxic? Should they be banned, set aside? Get rid of the illusions. Stop making up stories about people and justifying why they're in your life. They probably shouldn't be. And don't make up stories about yourself either. There is a time in our lives, usually in midlife, when a woman has to make a decision, possibly the most important psychic decision about whether to be bitter or not. Women often come to this in their late 30s or early 40s. They are at a point where they are full up to their ears with everything they've had, and they've had it, the last straw. So I had to make that decision for myself. I don't want to be bitter. I don't care how many inappropriate behaviors someone has done. I'm not going to take their behavior and be bitter towards other people. If I'm still going to allow somebody to be in my life, I'm going to find a way to communicate what I need to communicate with them. Just have an honest conversation, no longer behave, be passive, save my rage for later. I don't want to be bitter about anything or anyone. She does go on to talk about injured instinct and rage, collective rage. So like rage for certain groups. We had during Black Lives Matter, so you had a lot of African American people sharing the injustices that we've gone through. We have the thing going now with the Asian hate, so there's a collective rage with that. Women who were getting together with the Me Too movement, a collective rage with that. So some people are able to express their rage, or it wells up as they find a pack who are going through something, and they can see the injustice that group that they see a connection with is going through. And it's like she was pointing out that some people can actually find their voice, find their purpose in collective rage. But she's talking about also the people who are stuck in a rage and how you need to let that go. Don't hold on to it, because it actually can burn away at our energies. I thought that was interesting. So there are 4 stages to forgiveness. The first being to forego, to leave it alone. Second, to forbear, which is to abstain from punishing. Third, to forget, to aver from memory, to refuse to dwell. The fourth being to forgive and abandon You know, now you get to decide at what level you want to be at. Forgiveness is an act of creation. You can choose from many ways to do it. You can forgive for now, forgive till then, forgive till the next time, forgive but give no more chances. It is a whole new game if there is another incident. You can give one more chance, give several more chances, give many chances, give chances only if. You can forgive part, all, or half of the offense. You can devise a blanket forgiveness, you decide. How does one know if she has forgiven? You tend to feel sorrow over the circumstance instead of rage. You tend to feel sorry for the person rather than angry with them. You tend to have nothing left to remember to say about it all. You understand the suffering that drove the offense to begin with. You prefer to remain outside the milieu. You are not waiting for anything. You are not wanting anything. There is no lariat snare around your ankle stretching from way back there to here. You are free to go. It may not have turned out to be happily ever after, but most certainly there is now a fresh once upon a time waiting for you from this day forward. This reminds me of a book I did want to share. So I've also read a book called The Screw Tape Letters. And The Screw Tape Letters is so good, especially in dealing with forgiveness of a person that you do need to keep in your life. Because it's a senior devil talking to his nephew devil who he's mentoring. And in the book, it was so clever. Like he said to his nephew, he said, whatever you do, don't let him being the human being, don't let him pray for her arthritis, because then he'll gain compassion for her. As soon as he begins to pray for her, make him hungry, call somebody to walk by with food that smells good or music that will just whatever distraction you can think of, cause that distraction to happen. Work together with the other Satan guides. Do what you must to keep him distracted so that he doesn't pray for her. When you pray for a person, you can't help but soften your heart for them. You can't. It softens your heart, and in softening your heart, it makes you softer. It doesn't make me naive. I have no illusions about that person's character. Zero. But I refuse to operate in anger, in rage. I refuse to allow a person to believe they have that much power over me or that they're puppeteering me. I do hope you purchase this book. I think it's a phenomenal book. And if you too are a person who's struggling with anger or who just couldn't or did not want to allow themselves to express rage even when they were extremely angry and it was justifiable, I would encourage you to read this book. If you are looking to get deeper within yourself, to know yourself on a deeper level, and to present in the world at a deeper level, I recommend this book. I know last time I looked and did some research on Amazon, there's a small paperback version that was just $5.99. Extremely inexpensive. But anyway, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. I think I have 2 other chapters that I wanted to cover that I didn't cover, and that's chapter 13, Battle Scars, Membership in the Scar Clan. Oh goodness. And then chapter 14, La Selva Subterránea, Initiation in the Underground Forest. Wait, was I doing that one? But anyway, either way, you got one more chapter coming from me. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you soon.